We on now? Hi, we're a little bit late coming to you from Vienna. We tried in a beautiful park where you could see the panorama of the whole city. We just simply couldn't connect with whatever we needed to connect with so we could come to you. So here we are now. We're sitting in the restaurant of the great hotel, the 5-star hotel we're in, the La Meridian, which is right down the street from the great opera house. We've had a wonderful, wonderful tour so far in Prague, now in Vienna, Salzburg, a couple of nights ago when we came to you. Tomorrow we'll be in Vienna, and then the next day headed for Budapest. We have seen palaces, castles, great cathedrals. This morning I had the privilege of walking up 343 steps to the top of a Gothic cathedral tower. A great exercise. Well, I'm glad to be with you. And so without further ado, I'd like to tell you the story of a man who's connected to this city. But first of all, his mother, whose name was Maria. Maria was born in the servant class. Maria had hoped that her second marriage would make her happy, would fulfill all of her dreams. And she had been a dreamer, born the child of a palace cook. She had dreamed that she would climb the social ladder, that she would end up in the creme de la creme of society's elite. Instead, when she was 16, she fell in love with a nobleman's valet. And when she married him, she consigned herself to the rest of her life to be part of the serving class, to be dismissed as a nobody. When she was 18, tragedy struck. Her valet husband died of a sudden disease. She was left at age 18 as a widow with a single child. A few days later, that child died. Marie was devastated. Where do you go when you're 18 and you're unmarried and you've lost a child? Well, love found her again. A young musician from a prominent family fell in love with her. But when he took her home to meet his family, they looked down their haughty noses at this serving girl. His father would forever after refer to her as the chambermaid. His family would forever see her as an inferior interloper who never belonged in their family. So you can imagine the marriage soon soured. Maria gave birth to a son who died 6 weeks later. She would give birth to 8 more children, 5 of whom she would bury. 6 children she would bury in her lifetime. A tragic situation for any mother. But then, and maybe it was because of the death of all those children, that her musician husband, began to drink, to spend more time at the taverns than he did practicing his music. And when he wasn't drinking himself into a stupor, he was womanizing. And when Maria went to his father looked at her and said, "You should be happy that you're married in a prominent family, coming from such an inferior background as you have." When she complained to her husband, the beatings began. One night, in a drunken rage, he beat her half to death, and then he violently raped her. When Maria discovered that she was pregnant from this rape, she was determined that she would not bring into this world a child of rape, a child who would be born into the misery that she faced in her own life. She found herself to a back alley, to an old woman who dealt in concoctions that would end unwanted pregnancies. 1 drop of that vial of liquid would kill her baby. 3 drops or more would kill her. When she went back to her house, she was so distressed at the thought of killing her unborn child, so guilt-ridden as a religious woman, so unhappy with her life, that she poured the whole contents of that vial into a cup of tea, prepared to end not only her baby's life, but her life too. At that moment, God must have intervened. Some workers trying to move a piano to an upper room lost control of the piano. It crashed through the window, knocked the teacup off the table. The contents were spilled out, and Maria's hope of aborting that unborn child was lost with that precious, that medicine that had cost her everything she had. And so she determined that God's will must be for her to have the baby. The baby was a strange child, unresponsive, reclusive. Today we might say he was autistic, but he did have the family's flair for music. And so she took her to a nearby piano player and piano teacher. And the piano teacher said she'd take on this little boy. Little did that piano teacher know that she was gaining a child prodigy, a musical genius. When she was 40 years old, Mozart heard her child play in Vienna and said that he was destined to become one of the greatest pianists and composers of all time. It wasn't long after that Maria lay on her deathbed. Her son rushed to her side, held her hand in her dying moments. She said to that boy, who is now a man, a budding genius of a composer, she said, "You are the one joy in a life that's been otherwise a chain of sorrows. The one good thing I ever did in my life was giving birth to you and raising you." Who would have believed that Maria, the chambermaid, would have produced one of the greatest musical geniuses of all time? And aren't we glad today that Maria von Beethoven did not abort that little baby that she named Ludwig. Ludwig von Beethoven, who has enriched our lives, who played and composed here in Vienna and then died here in Vienna, but not before he left us a world of masterpiece music. I guess I wanted to share the story with you today as I've walked through the beautiful buildings, as I've seen the great works of art and the great masterpieces architecturally, musically, on canvas. I realized how valuable every person is, how valuable I am, how valuable you are. We are all created by God in our mother's womb as a masterpiece. God has a purpose for every one of us coming into this world. When my sisters found the mother who gave birth to me, who abandoned us at age 6, she looked at them and said, "Had abortion been legal when you were born, I would have aborted all of you kids." Thank God that abortion wasn't legal. Thank God that I'm here, that I have an opportunity to enrich not only your life, but the lives of everyone I touch. I am so grateful for my life. I believe my life is a masterpiece of God, and so is your life. And so, whether you are wanted or unwanted, God wants you. God wants to use you. And God wants you to become all that you can become. And that's my message here tonight from Vienna. Joyce, tomorrow night we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary. I can't believe that St. Joyce has lived with me all these years. We're going to come to you live from the most famous coffee house in all of Vienna as we share our 50th anniversary.
I'd like us to shout out to a few people if we could.
Sure.
We've got Renee, of course, on, and Sandy Stockdale, Chris McDonald, Donna Beeson Barano is on with us here from Vienna, and a watch party, Good Morning Lord.
Wow, Good Morning Lord.
Thank you
They've been
all
with
for
us
watching.
before. We're always so grateful. All of you in India, all of you in America, in Brazil, in South America, in other parts, in Africa, South Africa, Scotland, every place, Europe, every place that people are watching us. In India, from around the world. We're just so glad you're with us. You remember this. Like little Ludwig von Beethoven, God has created you in your mother's womb, no matter how you came about. And God has formed your life and allowed the things to happen in your life so that you could be a blessing to the rest of the world. So you go out today and you will be a blessing to the world. God bless. We'll see you next Tuesday
Weekend, you all.
when we come to you from Washington, D.C. Joyce, I love you. I'm glad you're my wife. You've been my wife for 50 years. And I'm glad God gave birth to you and let you be part of my life. And I'm glad He let all the rest of you be part of my life too.
Have
God
a
bless.
good weekend, everyone. Love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.